Hello, my name's Cliff Freilich. I'm the Executive Director of Cinema St. Louis, and we're the presenters of the 29th Annual Whitaker St. Louis International Film Festival. We're really pleased to be joined by the Director of Unapologetic, Ashley O'Shea, and interviewing Ashley on our behalf is Tila Neguse, who is the project coordinator of the Divided City, which is an initiative of the Center for the Humanities at Washington University. And this film is part of that stream of programming. I am now going to exit and turn things over to Tila.
So hi, Ashley. Thanks for joining us and for taking the time today. So I was just wondering if you wanted to start off by just telling me a little bit about yourself and your background.
For sure. Yeah, thank you for having me. As Cliff shared, my name is Ashley O'Shea. I am a DP, filmmaker, documentarian based in Chicago. I've been here for almost 10 years now, and am really just interested in stories and narratives that illuminate marginalized voices. So I mostly have worked in the space as on like a lot of shorter pieces and commercial pieces, but took on the task of directing Unapologetic for the past 4.5 years or so, and that's where I'm at now.
So actually, like the first question I wanted to ask you was if you wanted to share a little bit about the timeline of making this documentary, because I know Rekia Void was murdered in 2012, and then I think the film came out originally in 2015, right? Did you release
No,
it?
that's when the film. That's when I started filming. Was in 20.
Oh, that's when you started filming. Okay. So if you could just talk to me a little bit about the evolution of the film and like, from start to finish, what inspired you to make this, what developments have happened over the years, just about your experience.
Yeah, so I started filming in the fall of 2015, which was a few months after the judge that was presiding over the case for Rekia Boyd deemed it a mistrial because the state's attorney basically charged the officer with the wrong charge, and young Black people at the time in the city were organizing to bring more visibility to her name, as well as to encourage the police board here in Chicago and the superintendent to fire the officer that killed her. And so within that, there were like these monthly police board hearings that were held at Chicago Police Headquarters, where people could have like a direct forum to talk about issues of police equity and police accountability. And so I attended one of those meetings, and over the course of the time there, eventually the organizers shut the meeting down completely, and that was just unheard of at the time. It was really electrifying and energizing. And what I was most excited about in the space is that the people that were leading and on the bullhorns and leading chants were young Black women and femmes, and that was not something I had ever really seen in my formal education. And I began to just do some research to see if there was any comprehensive media told from this perspective, and I came up short. So that's when I first approached Janae about making a piece told from this point of view, and everything just kind of snowballed from there because the tape of Laquan McDonald's killing came out that November, and then things just kept escalating in Chicago. So it just it became story after story that I just felt needed to be archived and documented, while also looking at the journeys of these two women.
Yeah. I was wondering, how did you become connected with Janae and Bella? Like, did you know them prior to making the film, or was it through the film that you guys got to know each other?
Yeah, so Janae I connected with because she was the co-chair of Black Youth Project 100 at the time in Chicago, and was just sent her an email to ask, if she would be interested in something like this. And at the time, she had just started her first year of coursework at UIC for her PhD, and I was just really intrigued by the fact that she was like 24 at the time and taking on this, not only the huge task of leading this local chapter, but also pursuing her PhD. And over the course of filming, I began to meet more people in the community at actions and events. And so at the celebration after the police superintendent was forced to resign, Bella performed, and it was just you've seen in the film, it's just so lyrically powerful and energizing. And um, afterwards I talked to her, and just like kept following up, and found out that she was from the west side of Chicago, and was really starting to find her voice, like as an organizer through spoken word and performance. And I just thought that that would be a really nice compliment to Janae's journey through academia. So just natural connections that led to them being in the film.
Yeah, I love that you guys were just able to kind of connect organically through the activism. I like so I really enjoy all of Bella's poetry and her spoken word, and I really just like that theme of art and activism in the film. Particularly with her stuff and her calling herself a ractivist. A lot of the work that I do on this Divided City project at Washington University, we deal with that intersection of art and activism. So I did really appreciate that was highlighted. I'm wondering if you want to provide further comments, since you did comment on a little bit about that dynamic practice of combining creative power with strategic planning of activism. Like, why was that important to feature in the film?
Well, I think one, it's spoken word and performance is like really integral to the organizing space in Chicago, and I knew that there was no way to represent that, like, this community accurately without including that as well. Um, and for Belle in particular, I think that her spoken word and her lyrics are a way for her to process everything that she's going through, everything that her family's going through, her community's going through, and it's an access point, right, for a lot of people that are able to that find themselves in her presence performing. There's a lot of like lofty ideas and um, academic words thrown around a lot of times in these spaces that people from different educational backgrounds just it may not register completely. And so I think art and spoken word is an access point to reach those who are most affected by these issues in a way that is not only informative but also really energizing and exciting. And so that's kind of the energy that Bella moves with. That's the energy that the spoken word community here moves with. And we definitely wanted to represent that in the film about Chicago organizing.
Yeah, I liked when I think there was one point in the film where Bella was saying like this is a new idea, the idea that this kind of stuff, activism, protest, art can be work. I that really resonated with me. I'm wondering, like, for you, because this is, I mean, making a documentary film on this subject is also activism, art,
Mhm.
and, and it's work. So I just wondering if you can just comment on that, the way all those things play together.
Yeah, it was definitely a process. Uh, it was definitely the decision to make the film was definitely came from a need for me needing to process what was happening in the Black community. But knowing that I didn't necessarily see myself fitting in, I guess in a more traditional sense, with political organizing, and just also being really like attached to the camera, and being at events or protests and like seeing things a certain way that I didn't see other people like capturing in such a thoughtful way. Um, I just felt like that just kept pulling me, and it felt like that was kind of how like what was intended for me in that moment was to be like my organizing tool was meant to be film. So I definitely wanted to lean into that. And I think Bella's point about, you know, how, how I guess activism and organizing is being framed as work now, is, it comes from a history of like Bella, her whole life has been, working to talk about incarceration and prison abolition and to like uplift her community that's really under resourced and underutilized. Um, but now, it's kind of a buzzword to talk about Black Lives Matter, and there's ways to commodify it, that I think Bella was becoming familiar with over the course of the filmmaking. Even when she was writing the application for the grant for her, for Sister Survivor, she said like she's never done grants before. She's never applied for funding in this way, which absolutely like take everyone's money and like do what you need to do with it. But I also think there's like a weird dichotomy that like if you somehow have been rewarded for the work or have received funding, that you're somehow like better than someone who maybe has just been doing it on a smaller level in their community. And so I think Bella is just like kind of giving names to folks who like they may just like drop off groceries to people every week in their own, like, organized in smaller ways that aren't so institutionalized, but those matter just as much as like a whole organization or initiative being funded.
Yeah, I love that she named it. I mean, I knew exactly, what she was getting at, and I just love that she named it and she did it so succinctly. So I also appreciated the conversations around gender and sexuality in the film. There's that particularly, I think it's tender moment where I think Janae's mom was talking about how she identifies as queer. And, obviously I know this is a film that centers women and Black women, but also recognize how it raised all the questions about Black womanhood in relation to things like sexuality, misogyny. Was that intentional, or did those kind of things develop naturally?
It was definitely intentional. It was it was something that I think was more of a long game to try to like draw out those elements for the film, because gender and sexuality is something that can be a very personal topic for people, and was something that I like in terms of Janae and her mom, is something that Janae had told me off camera in our conversations. But we had to develop that trust in that relationship to be able to like get it to the level where her mom felt comfortable saying it on camera. Um, and but we knew from the beginning, especially because groups like VIP 100, they were organizing from this Black queer feminist lens, or like this, the idea that if we center the people furthest at the margins, once they get free, everyone else gets free. And so I wanted to make sure that we were highlighting how that can play out in people's individual lives, and how queerness can be about sexuality, but also like be an adopted politics in other ways. And so even though I don't think we're hitting people over the head the whole film with the idea of a queer politic or queerness as a sexuality rather, I think that there, we with Janae and Bella talking about abolition and defunding the police and these ideas that at the time were really, really seemed far fetched. That's queerness as well. That's a queer politic as well. And so there's a couple moments where we like talk about it directly as sexuality, but we also um, we're hoping like through conversations that we can like broaden the understanding of what queerness means.
Yeah, and I think you accomplished that.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the film. So I'm wondering, and I know we got to wrap it up soon. So, but I wanted to ask, having made this film a couple years ago, and then now, seeing how the situation of continued police violence and murder of Black people persists and keeps persisting and repeating. I just, I'm wondering what your thoughts on that. That's a really big question, and I'm sorry, you could say whatever you want actually, because that I don't even know if that's a fair question to ask. So I'm just wondering, as a filmmaker, who's done a film on activism around police brutality and violence, living in this moment right now, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as crazy as a question as you think. A lot of people have been asking me this. Um, yeah, I definitely like. I hope that the film coming out of this time can give can really show the resilience and the dedication that um, that young Black people in 2015 used in order to like bring about these shifts in Chicago, and give something concrete to how people are reacting to acts of police violence and police brutality. And although it's really unfortunate that like we're still dealing with these issues on the same level right now, and it hasn't really decreased since I started filming. But like I said, like conversations around defunding the police, abolishing the police, getting police out of schools, like the way that I'm seeing shifts, or that I saw shifts over the summer in cities throughout the country, like where it's becoming a more common topic, and like just like everybody's kind of starting to think about it more, and it doesn't seem as far off an idea. Like the foundation for that was set in 2015, and even before that with Trayvon Martin in 2012 and Mike Brown in 2014. Like I'm hoping that Unapologetic can kind of serve as part of the canon of like those origin stories, that were giving concrete steps on how to address police brutality. And even though I know this moment is really disheartening and difficult, for Black and Brown people around the world, I just I hope if they're able to see the film that it gives them 86 minutes of respite to just know that they're, even within all of the chaos, there can still be joy, there can still be turn ups, there can be PhD approvals and organizations built. It's not going to be linear, like how we get to this freedom point. And so um, there's a lot of people who are still out here doing the work, and continue to do the work, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere, no matter how much they try to defeat us. So I try to stay in that headset.
Yeah, you have to. So the last thing I'll ask you, because I think that's a really good place to close out, is just what are you working on now, or what are your plans in the future? What's next?
I'm just trying to sleep right now. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I mean right now, well, I work primarily as a cinematographer, so I've really been kind of returning to that practice with other films and projects, and I'm trying to just like kind of rediscover my creative voice, because like finishing a film during a pandemic can be a burnout. It was definitely a burnout in a lot of ways.
Congratulations, incredible.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I'm kind of, in terms of like my next big thing. I'm still kind of parsing that out. I know I want to do a personal film about my family patriarch from Tuskegee, Alabama, and kind of the family network that we've built from that. But I'm not, I mean, if someone's watching this that wants to give me some money, I will definitely take it. But I'm not. I'm kind of just. I want to develop that with family, and really intentionally. So kind of while I'm thinking about that, I'm also continuing to shoot for other people, and kind of just be in service of other creatives for a little bit, because it's kind of nice to follow someone else's vision and not have to come up with it yourself all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, you did an amazing job with this film, so thank you. And thank you for taking the time today too.
I appreciate it. Thank you.